Hello, friends, and welcome back to another week of Storytime Art. My name is Tyler, and I'm very excited that you could be here with us today. Today, we're going to be looking at landscape art as well as collage. So, we're going to be using bits of colorful cut paper like this. I've organized it into a bit of a bag here, and we're going to be seeing if we can make a picture kind of like this. Okay, so there's one, and then on the other side, I have another example here. So I'm going to show you all the steps that you need to do to make something like this. All right, let's get into it.
Okay, so here is the example again. I've got two images here. We're going to be looking at this one here in particular and how to kind of put that together. You can make really whatever you like, but I'm going to show you how you might do this one with sort of the mountains and the trees. Camping is one of my favorite summertime activities, so I'm going to put that over here. And to get started today, the materials that we're going to need, I have them all sort of laid out here. You're going to need a piece of paper to work on. I'm going to use black. You can use whatever color paper you want to start on. It's totally up to you, but I'm going to use black because things show up kind of nicely on there. You will need a pair of scissors, a pencil or a marker for drawing, and then some glue. I find the glue stick works just fine for this. If you don't have a glue stick, white glue also works, no problem. And then you need some paper. So I've sort of tried to organize them a little bit by color. I've got my sort of blues and greens, yellows, oranges, reds, and this sort of salmon color. I've got a few other colors. What I've also done is I've also kept all kinds of cut up pieces. You know, if I was cutting something out, you know, especially this one here, if I was cutting out these weird wonky shapes, like maybe I can reuse this for something later on. So I've got all this sort of small stuff. And I'm going to keep that handy and sort of see where I can maybe use that later on. So I'm going to keep that over there. And what I've done is I have started to set aside some of the paper that I would like to use for mine. So I've chosen some colors out here, a lot of these colors. So I've got like two blues, I've got a green, looks like I've got a couple blues, a couple different sort of pinks, and some purple. And I've chosen colors that kind of go together a little bit. I don't have crazy contrasting colors. Again, you can do that however you like, but I wanted to start with colors that were pretty similar to each other. So before I start gluing things, cutting and gluing things, I'll show you kind of what the pieces are that I would use to make. So for my sky, I've just got kind of a very simple, just choosing one color, and then you can see I've got layers here. I've got two different mountain pieces, and when I kind of lay those on top of each other, it starts creating this kind of far away, kind of distant feel. And just like that, I've created a picture already. And now maybe with this one, I'm going to, you know, make something else down there. So I'm going to show you how we can do that to begin with. I'll put those over there for now. So I'm going to start with whatever's the farthest away. So that would be my sky. And the sky in real life is the biggest part, but for this part, it doesn't have to actually be that large. You can just use kind of a small piece just like that. Okay, so I'm going to put mine right there. You can use a smaller piece, or, you know, actually I might fold this. Try and sort of save some paper. There. All right, so I'm going to maybe cut my things out before I start gluing. You can glue your things down as you want, but sometimes the nice thing about collage is that you can cut everything out, move it all around, and then you can make your decision, and then you can glue it down once you're happy with it. So my next color was going to be the blue. I'm going to do 2 layers of mountains, And for these, I'm going to do a nice kind of gentle slope. I'll draw it with the marker so that it's easier for you to see. Okay, so there's one, and then on my dark blue, I'm going to do another, maybe I'll do two on this one. I'm going to draw them at kind of different heights. Okay, so that's pretty simple so far. Then I'm going to go ahead and snip that out. I'm going to cut maybe a little on this side so I can cut that, that black line off. I am going to save this though. I'm going to put this in this pile. Maybe I'll sort of save that for later. I'm going to do the same thing here. Now a neat little trick, if you're doing stuff like this, if you've drawn something to help you cut and you still see a black line on there, you can either trim it or you can just flip it over and your line's on the back. And there you go. All right, so I've got this piece, and then I've got this piece. Maybe I'll go back to this one because that one's going the direction I want it to go. Okay, so now I've got mountains that appear that they're very far away, and mountains that appear that they're a little bit closer, and I'm kind of overlapping and layering. I'm working in layers. Now for the trees, this is the fun part. I'm going to take a green sheet, and here's another little trick. If you want to make a lot of trees quickly, depending on how thick the paper is and how strong your scissors are, I've got 3 little green sheets here, and I'm just going to hold them steady, or you can tape them together at one side, and I'm going to just cut them all at the same time. So what I'm going to do is cut some triangles out of one side just to make kind of a jagged edge, and I'm going to make some big, some small, all different sizes here. I'm still do another big one there. I'm still holding on to all 3 of my pages. You don't have to do all 3 all at once. You can just do one at a time if you want. This is just kind of a nice way to nice little shortcut. And then I've got this, and look at that. Now I've got 3 different sheets of trees. I only need 1 right now, but I've got 2 more here that I can maybe save those for later if I want to do more trees somewhere else. And again, I'm going to save all of these because I might use them for something else later. I just put all of that in a plastic bag just like this. Zip it up nice and tight. Well, here you can see this is actually all my small bits. I put them all in there to keep them sort of separate so they don't fly everywhere. Okay, there's that. And then now I'm going to make something to go in what we call the foreground. So I've got the background, which is the mountains. I've got the middle ground, which is the forest and the trees. And then I've got this here that I'm going to make as my my foreground. Now, this is where you get to decide. I mean, you can decide as you're going, but I'm going to decide what it is I actually want to have in my foreground. And if I'm going to make a camping scene, maybe I will do the same thing where I have maybe a bit of a small hill with a tent on it or something like that. And I'm going to draw that up here. Just drawing that in pencil first, and the tent is going to be kind of like this. Okay. Draw that. Oops, there goes my glue. Draw that with the marker so you can see it a little bit better. Now this part, if you want to, you can even just leave the marker bits there so that you can see your drawing. You can do that kind of however you like. If you want to keep that on, you can. And then I'm going to cut this top bit off here. And to get around this tent part, I'm just going to kind of cut that chunk right off. Cut this more you can do sort of straight cuts like that, the easier it is. Sometimes it's easier than spinning and pivoting your paper. All right, so there's my little tent. Again, my extra scraps, they go over to the scrap pile. And then my little tent goes on top like that. All right, so now I'm going to glue. And I'm going to glue them down in the same order that I made them. So I'm going to start with the sky, mountain 1, mountain 2, trees, and then my tent. So I'm going to move all this stuff down. Put some glue on the back of my sky. And now this is where you get to decide a few other things, like how much sky do you want in your painting? Do you want only this much sky, or do you want that much sky? Totally up to you. Maybe I'll go right about there. That seems to be like kind of a nice happy medium. Also, you can see there, my my mountain is a little bit wider than my sky. That's okay. You can fix that now, or I'll show you how to fix that after. You could just trim that off by scissors, but the thing about that is you might have to kind of do a little bit of guesswork to see. I don't know if that's, you know, but I'm gonna line everything up as best I can on one side, and then everything else is going to kind of hang over on the other side. And then I'll show you how to fix that. All right, next we have my second range of mountains. Throw a bit of glue on there, and it doesn't really matter. Like this mountain is much larger than this one, like the pieces of paper, but it doesn't really matter. The bottom part doesn't matter because we're just covering that up each step of the way that we go. Okay. A little more down there. A little more up there. Make sure everything is down nice and tight. There we go. And then next comes my trees. Again, you can decide, do you want your mountains to be towering and very, very tall, or do you want your trees to be super tall, and like if you kind of overlap them a little bit, then it looks like your mountains are kind of just peeking out behind there. So I'm gonna see if I can pull that off. So like I said, how big the bottom parts doesn't matter at all, as long as the very last piece you put on covers up the bottom. And make sure I stick those down like that. Okay, and then my little tent. Now, if I wanted to, if I didn't want the drawing on there, I could just draw that in pencil and erase it afterwards. Or I kind of actually like it with the little bit of a drawing in there, but I'm only going to do some drawing on this first one. All right, so this is the very last layer that I'm going to put on. So the bottom part of this one has to be the way that you want it. Well, you know, it doesn't even have to be, because we can trim and adjust things a little bit at the end. And again, I'm going to line it up with this side here. Okay, so all of my pieces are lined up nicely on this side as best I can. And over here you can see it's all sort of jagged and wobbly and such. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this out, and I'm going to, when I trim, I'm going to trim along, cutting a little bit of this off the side as I'm going, so that whole part is nice and straight. And I did like it kind of sitting on the black. Maybe I'll put this whole thing on another piece if I want to. Or I can leave some black at the top, some black at the bottom. Okay, just like that. Now, if you feel that your picture is too tall and you want to shorten it, you can do the same thing down here. Maybe I'll just cut a little bit off down here. But when you do, make sure that you cut small bits at a time. And a nice kind of trick to do is take another sheet of paper and sort of cover it up. And if you move it up here, you can see, maybe I like it there. So I'll draw a line there, or maybe I like it there, so that you can kind of decide. You can see your picture with that trim already taken off, and see if you like it or not. And I'll trim a bit off the top, why not? All right, and there is my little collage picture. Now the last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put a little sort of sun up here, and I'm going to use this little piece of pink, which I cut off of a bigger piece here. Couple ways that you can do circles. I usually show these a couple of times here and there. You can find something that is already a circle. This is actually kind of small, so maybe I'll use, let's see, this is a circle, this little flower pot thing, and then you can draw your circle around like that. And there you have a circle. So now I can cut around that. Or you can take a square piece of paper like this, and I'm going to start by cutting off the corners little by little, rotating it as I go. So once I cut off the corners, then it looks like this, like a stop sign. And now I'm going to cut off those corners so that, and sort of keep cutting off corners until it is a circle-y shape. That's a bit large, so I'm going to actually cut a bigger chunk off of it. And if you end up having a shape that is not a circle or not the shape that you want, it's always okay to try again. Circles are really, really difficult shapes to cut. See, even mine looks a bit like an oval. I'm okay with that though. Oval's a cool shape. I'm going to put some glue on there, and I'm going to stick this up there right in the sky, just like that. All right, so with some very, very simple materials, mostly cutting and pasting paper, we have ourselves a nice little paper landscape collage picture there. So go ahead and make one, try that yourself, whatever kind of scene you'd like to do. If you want to do a summertime scene or a winter scene or something like that, whatever you like. And if you make something and you want to share it with us, please feel free to do so. You can put it online and use this hashtag AGHAtHome. And that way, if we see it, then we can share it with all of our friends. So you can post it on Facebook or Instagram, or you can just show it to some of your friends. All right, thanks a lot for joining us, and I hope you have a great week.